recently, we unexpectedly got patch 6, which completely changed Chapter 4. And of course, I'm not gonna go over every single fix, but I'll highlight the 3 biggest updates, one of which literally flipped the game upside down. Y'all remember the old Yarnaby death scene, right? Well, the devs decided to rework it, and now it looks absolutely perfect. Besides that, we also got a new Ollie dialogue.
Yes, yes! My signal's coming through! Finally! The doctor. He's dead. I didn't think I'd ever get to say that. You, my friend, are a hero. Again and again, you do the impossible. You got us here. And the end is coming. All that's left is him. Let's regroup at Safe Haven. Take stock. Talk more there.
And of course, everyone remembers the legendary scene with Doey after the destruction of Safe Haven. This scene has also been reworked, and I'm curious, will you notice what's changed after watching this new scene? Let me know in the comments.
I'm so sorry. I failed you. It was never what any of you needed. I was only made to hurt things. My fault. My fault. Hurt. Everything hurts. Hurt back. Always hurt back. Parents, scientists, everyone have to. My friends. He killed my friends. It all started with you. You and her. It was you who ruined everything! No, that's not true. They jump-started the generator. They destroyed everything! I'll kill you!
And now, after 6 patches, we've basically got a brand new game that fans actually enjoy playing. Tons of comments saying it's now the best, or at least close to Chapter 3 only prove that. So naturally, a question pops up in many people's minds. Why release the game on January 31st if they could have just polished it and given us a masterpiece by mid-March? But aside from that, we already have a bunch of new info about upcoming characters, or even those who might return. And not just that, in Chapter 5. So, grab some snacks, or play this video in the background while doing your thing, cause that way, you're really helping the channel grow. Big thanks in advance, and let's get started. Chapter 5 is most likely going to be the final chapter, which is why there are tons of theories about who might come back. Today, we're going to go over pretty much every possible option, not just those who've already fought or helped us, but also the ones we might meet for the first time, who could finally help us carry out our plan, or just straight up kill us. Lately, a theory's been gaining traction that the real Ollie is gonna show up in Chapter 5. And let me say right away, I totally believe in this one. I even broke down all the possible scenarios in one of my previous videos. But now, let's talk about the others. Lately, I've been hearing a lot of talk about how Chapter 5 won't be the last, and that we'll see at least a Chapter 6. All because Zach supposedly said so. I get it. No one wants this story to end, but I have several 100% solid proofs that after Chapter 5, we won't see anything else. First, don't blindly trust Zach and take everything he says at face value. Given the way he worded it, I'm fully convinced he was just messing around to spark debate and hype up the future of Poppy playtime. Let's go over the facts, and for that, we'll look at Chapter 4. Let's make a deal. If I can convince you that Chapter 5 will be the finale, drop a comment saying you agree. And if you disagree, tell me why in the comments. It all started with Poppy mentioning the Hour of Joy in Chapter 3, the root of all the horrors that unfolded at Playtime Co. Then, in our conversation with her, she revealed that the prototype's home is in the laboratories. After that, we got those strange statements from Dr. Harley Sawyer, the chilling VHS tape where Poppy spilled major secrets, the long-awaited full conversation with the prototype, Poppy's escape, and finally, Huggy's return, along with the certainty that the main setting of the new chapter will be that very lab, the prototype's domain. I think it's obvious to everyone that the prototype is our ultimate antagonist in Poppy playtime. And considering everything we've discussed, our encounter with him is now inevitable, especially since they've been hinting at his grand reveal ever since Chapter 2. Come on! And after all this, you still think there could be anything after Chapter 5? To me, that would be complete nonsense, because the entire main storyline can be perfectly wrapped up in Chapter 5. And that's without even getting into Huggy, who definitely didn't return for no reason. Now, we can finally say with confidence, Chapter 5 has to conclude the story of Poppy playtime, which means it's time to talk about who we might see again. I don't think anyone will be shocked if I say Huggy Wuggy. All right, we'll get to Huggy and his potentially major role later. But for now, let's talk about everyone else. Drop your own ratings for how likely each character is to return in the comments. But keep in mind, this is the final chapter, and everything will revolve around the prototype. The first so-called victim of the prototype, none other than Mommy Longlegs.
What have you done? You make me part of him! You can't do this to me!
What stood out to me the most were her words about not wanting to be a part of him. Judging by what's left of Mommy, it would be foolish to claim she'll return in Chapter 5 in the classic form we're used to seeing her. But let's not forget that Playtime's labs are home to mind-bending technologies. And now that the prototype is in charge, all their developments are literally in his head. That means, while it's small, there's still a chance that Mommy Longlegs might come back. She could appear as Mommy 2.0, or more likely, as part of the prototype's body. But as the original Mommy Longlegs, we definitely won't see her in that form. Still, I'd love to see that pink beauty again. Aside from Mommy, there's another missing piece in the prototype's puzzle, Catnap, the circumstances of his death, or maybe his survival, which still haunt me to this day. Take note of how this so-called incident unfolded. At first glance, it seems like the prototype's claw pierced Catnap's head completely, and it looks pretty obvious, but this is mob entertainment we're talking about. They're capable of anything, as we saw with Huggy. But take a closer look. Now, once more, the prototype's claw hits precisely the center of Catnap's mouth. And despite the blood, you can clearly see that no vital organ, specifically the brain or the arteries carrying blood from the neck, has been damaged. This makes it quite possible that Catnap survived, and as a result, his return in Chapter 5 is very likely. I know this might sound crazy, but you remember we're dealing with the prototype and his labs. And if we're talking about Catnap, we can't ignore his complete opposite, Dog Day. This guy was one of the most intriguing characters in Chapter 3, and thanks to him, we learned a lot of new things.
Come to save us. Nothing left to save. Not here. Nor Catnap's home, Angel. Their home. A myriad pairs of eyes are on you now. Watching. Waiting, hungry. They want nothing more than to crawl beneath your skin and eat away at you bit by little bit. Fill what feels empty inside themselves. That thing, Catnap. The prototype is his god, and this is what he does to heretics. We try to fight it. The prototype's control. I am the last of the smiling critters.
I think everyone felt a little something in their heart at this moment. But if we put emotions aside and think logically, Dog Day is alive. His body was simply taken over by the mini critters. And if we remember the final scene with him, I didn't notice anything that suggested a fatal outcome for him. We easily escaped from him and shut the door right in his face, interrupting his chase. But he's still alive, and you probably can't argue with that. Unlike Miss Delight, who definitely won't be coming back, at least because we split her body into 2 parts. And honestly, she isn't important to the prototype like Mommy Longlegs for him to waste time and energy resurrecting her. I'm pretty sure we'll encounter Dog Day again as an episodic monster trying to catch us, but we know that this time he'll probably meet the same fate as Miss Delight. And since we're talking about smiling critters, it would be a crime not to mention Hoppy Hopscotch, who first appeared to us in Chapter 3.
On 3 with me. 1, 2, 3! Heh, didn't get very far, did we? Again! 1, 2, 3! Nope, still didn't make it. Listen, this won't stop until we make it to the moon. 1, 2... No, don't look at your feet! None of that matters! Again! Jump!
Hey, what really got me hooked was that we don't hear any screams like we do with Bubba or Kickin'. But the devs decided to spice things up and keep us intrigued by showing a little snippet of her life in Safe Haven.
I need some help here! Hey, watch the door! Watch the door! Right here. Lock the There you go, bud. You're okay. Okay! Look at me! I'm a mess!
Hoppy? What's going on?
We were trying to bring supplies back up to the elevator, but we got jumped. Had to turn all the way back around. So, what do we do now?
For starters, you two stay here tonight. Let things settle down outside. I'll find more food for you to bring up to play care. When you're ready.
Thanks, Doey. Sorry we lost the supplies. It won't happen again.
And it seems like nothing, just a small reference to an old character, and I'd agree with you if it wasn't for that damn note on the wall, where we find out that Hoppy disappeared and they can't find her. That's the real reason she's not in Safe Haven, and what's really interesting is that we haven't seen any solid proof of her death. So these references make you think that she might be, let's say, captured by the prototype in those very labs, and the chances of meeting her in Chapter 5 are pretty high. You can't just assume she was killed by Catnap or anyone else, cause no one, except the devs, knows for sure. And if you're curious whether any other smiling critters have a chance of coming back, after you're done with this video, check this one out, cause I dive deep into all the fates of the smiling critters and their chances of returning with all the latest info. As for Chapter 4, honestly, I don't even want to talk about it. Yarnaby is a real idiot, and there's no point in expecting his return. Sawyer already did his part of the deal with the prototype, and honestly, all he probably wanted was to die, which we helped him with. Nightmare critters are just a joke that shouldn't have even existed in the first place, but then there's Pianosaurus. This 30 Seconds hero also wasn't even supposed to show up in Chapter 4, and devs just threw him in as a filler for the gameplay. But lately, a lot of fans have been pushing this theory that there are actually multiple Pianosauruses, and in Chapter 5, we might either see a second one, or, if you believe the whole musical band theory, maybe another member of his group. To me, that sounds like total nonsense, and I don't even want to waste time on it. But hey, let me know what you think in the comments. And if anyone's worried about Kissy Missy, don't be. She's definitely coming back, just like Poppy. But Huggy's return is what's really interesting. Not only is it super symbolic, since everything started with him, it makes sense for everything to end with him, but his role in our survival might actually be huge. So before I wrap this up, let me quickly drop a theory, and if you've got your own takes, hit up the comments. Huggy's gonna be a neutral character whose only goal is survival. He won't fight for our side, even though he's got a close bond with Kissy Missy, and he won't be on the prototype side, even though he started off as its pawn. His appearance is gonna be the key to progressing through the game. Think about it. Poppy escaped, Kissy's badly injured, and if we take into account what Leith Pierre said about the lab, there's no way we survive in there without a third party helping us. So maybe Huggy's gonna be that third party and help us make it to the prototype alive. As I promised, let's finally unravel the mystery of the new character. Y'all remember those weird hats they kept teasing us with before the release of Chapter 4, right? At the time, no one knew what they meant, but later we found out they were tied to Doey. But here's the thing, there was another leak showing the silhouette of a clown. And let's be real, Doey ain't no clown. So who exactly were the devs teasing us with? For a while, fan-made channels were hyping up a character called Lulu the Clown. Now, I'm not saying it's gonna be exactly him, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Chapter 5 character shares some similarities. Ollie was one of the few characters we could trust. Someone who actually tried to help us escape this horrifying place. But all good things must come to an end. And Ollie's so-called end came at the end of Chapter 4, when we learned a chilling truth. But is everything really as obvious as it seems? In this video, we're gonna dive into some theories that might just convince you that the real Ollie is still alive, and that there's a huge chance we'll either see or at least hear him in Chapter 5. Throughout Chapter 3, Ollie was one of the most important characters for us. His tips and hints made surviving a whole lot easier.
Well, head back out, and you should find a door just to the left of the cable car you took down here. Okay, I sent you another key. It's under the statue. Use it to get into Home Sweet Home. Then once you're inside, find the building's backup generator. Good luck!
But despite all the theories and mysteries surrounding this character, ones that popped up right after Chapter 3 dropped, opinions were divided. Some were dead sure Ollie was actually the prototype, while others swore he was a real person, just like us, trying to escape Playtime Co. But then Chapter 4 hit us with the brutal truth, one that completely flipped the story on its head.
What did you do with Ollie?
I'm right here, Poppy.
For you,
I'll always
be here.
Right now, we know that Ollie is the prototype, but that raises an even bigger question. What the hell really happened to the real Ollie? Is he still alive? And who actually is he? I've got two possible theories where Ollie survived and is still somewhere inside Playtime Co. First, let's break down the theory that directly ties him to the prototype and Dr. Sawyer. We already know the prototype has a freakishly good ability to mimic voices. Hell, we saw it firsthand during our first encounter with Harley Sawyer.
Log code 24459. In relation, experiment 1006. The prototype. Stubborn as he is, and always silent with each passing session, I'm still uncovering fresh data nonetheless. Today's discovery.
Ready to talk now, are you? I possess
A question.
Go ahead.
Do you feel anything?
This question referred to once exactly.
You stick us.
Beat us.
Tear our flesh.
Do you feel it? There's a secret inside you, 1006. Valuable beyond all measure.
Even this theory isn't as simple as it seems. Yeah, the prototype is a genius-level monster with insane intelligence and all sorts of unnatural abilities, but his voice mimicry? That comes with a catch. For the prototype to steal someone's voice, he has to be around them for a long time. Meaning, if he really was the one on the other end of the phone the whole time, then he definitely knew Ollie and spent a lot of time with him. A perfect example? Theodore. This kid eventually became Catnap, one of the prototype's servants. But before that, he saw the prototype every single day, talked to him, interacted with him. This just proves again that the prototype is a master manipulator. He knows exactly how to win people over before using them for his own plans. And we can't forget about the Poppy doll itself, created from the remains of multiple children through the Bigger Bodies initiative, which also involved using human parts in experiments. We're not gonna dive into the whole theory that Elliot Ludwig is the prototype and that he's just trying to take care of his daughter Poppy, who's now a doll made from his daughter's remains and all that, cause honestly, that doesn't really matter for today's discussion. What does make sense, though, is the theory that Ollie was one of Sawyer's victims in the Bigger Bodies initiative. We know for a fact that the prototype and Ollie talked for a long time. But now, the prototype is saying that Ollie was around a very, very long time ago. Meaning, the prototype might have taken Ollie's voice for his own purposes, then threw him into an experiment. If that's true, there's a real chance we'll run into Ollie in Chapter 5, but as a Bigger Bodies experiment. And that's where things get really interesting. This theory actually makes a lot of sense when you look at what happened at the end of Chapter 4. We lost everyone who could have helped us. Doey? Dead by our own hands. Poppy? Freaked out and ran away. Kissy? At best, she lost an arm, and at worst, she didn't make it. Either way, she's in no condition to help us. So, if there was ever a perfect time to run into the real Ollie as a Bigger Bodies experiment, it's now. And if we want to prove that it was actually the prototype on the phone this whole time, we just got to listen to one of the VHS tapes.
Poppy? Are you there?
Yes. Yes, I'm here.
When you didn't answer, are you feeling okay?
I'm okay. Really.
Did the bad men hurt you?
There's nothing more they can do to hurt me. Nothing more than what they've already done.
Something's bothering you, Poppy. Something you need to talk about?
I don't need anything tonight. Ollie, I just want to sleep.
I think there's more to this. More that you're not telling me.
There's
not. I know what you're doing, Poppy. Talking like that. Don't think for a second that I believe it. Just tell me what you're feeling. Please, just talk to me honestly.
We hear how curious Ollie is, how he's desperate to learn more. And honestly, it almost feels like this whole conversation was never about helping us. It was just the prototype fishing for as much info on Poppy as possible. But here's the thing, there are a few inconsistencies in this theory that make me think we might have actually been talking to the real Ollie all along. First off, listen to this.
It's me again. It seems like Poppy explained everything now, and she turned on the dome's backup power. Now the plan from here is pretty simple. Turn on the generator, leave, and plug the school's power cord into the center. Be careful in there. I don't think I can connect to you on that side of the dome.
Now compare it to how the prototype mimics voices.
Stop that.
You don't need to pretend anymore.
You don't need to play at being stronger than you are. You can come home.
How much do you know?
Everything. Let me tell you what comes next.
I'm going to
Come up there.
and I'm going to
Find you. Your collaborators. The few you have left, they will be dealt with.
Yeah, maybe this is a bit of a reach, but hear me out. Ollie's voice just feels too structured, too clear, compared to how the prototype usually talks. And based on that, plus something else we'll get into in a second, I really think we might have been talking to the real Ollie this whole time. The only question is, what was his endgame? In previous part of the video, we already figured out that the prototype spent a lot of time talking to Ollie. And if we draw a parallel with Catnap, who, let's not forget, used to be an orphan before the prototype finally got in his head and turned him into what he is now, then it's totally possible the same thing happened to Ollie. And considering his kid-like voice, we know Ollie wasn't some Playtime co-employee. There's like a 99% chance he was one of the orphans living at the dormitory. So the idea that the prototype manipulated him into taking his side, yeah, that's not a stretch at all. And if that wasn't enough, there's actually something Poppy said during our convo that strongly hints Ollie might still be alive.
The orphans weren't killed during the Hour of Joy. They were taken. They're below, in the labs. The prototype's home. They are alive, but sleeping. They're with him. And he knows we're here. So, if we're going to free them and stop the prototype, we need to plan for both at the same time. The red smoke he redirected from Playcare? It's an accelerant. All it needs is high pressure and a little spark, and it ignites. The plan is this. We'll fill the foundation with smoke and line it with old mining charges. Then once you, me, and Kissy have freed the orphans, our friends here will blow this place sky high.
Yo, if you really think about it, during the Hour of Joy, which kicked off all the horror at Playtime, only the staff got taken out, while all the orphans stayed alive. Well, at least we never saw the risen monsters mess with any kids. So yeah, Poppy might be right after all. Ollie could be chilling in the prototype's lab, just in deep sleep. Makes you think back to Chapter 3, where we first met Ollie, right? So, we've looked at a few theories, and in any of them, Ollie's alive. Either he's now part of the BB experiment, or he's working for the prototype, and all these mind games are just a big illusion of friendship for the prototype's benefit. Or maybe Ollie's just knocked out cold, and the prototype straight up stole his voice and learned to mimic it perfectly. I want to know which theory you guys are leaning towards. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Of course, we can't rule out that Ollie might be dead by now, and the prototype's just using his voice. But we haven't heard anything confirming that. We just know Ollie was there a long time ago, but nothing's been said about him being dead, so I'm not buying that theory. Oh, and we're not forgetting a few updates from the devs either. Let's start with Huggy, who's made an epic return to our lives. Just want to say right away, despite some theories about Huggy maybe being a good guy or whatever, I'm more than sure he's gonna be on the prototype side and probably won't play a huge role in the new chapter. But we'll get into that in detail a bit later. I've already seen a bunch of theories about who's gonna show up in Chapter 5, and honestly, some of them just make me want to laugh. Some people seriously think that little chick from the Bunzo Bunny comic could be Poe, and just cause they showed him once, that means he's gotta be in Chapter 5? Come on! That theory makes me want to laugh and cry at the same time. And don't even get me started on the nightmare critters. They weren't even supposed to be part of the story originally. They were just thrown in to fill gaps. And yeah, their so-called leader, Baba Chops, was a total letdown. But somehow, the almighty and terrifying Poe is supposed to wipe us out in Chapter 5? Okay. Fan favorite Braun also popped up in theories about Chapter 5. But Isaac already said they kept trying to add him, and it never worked out. Then he mentioned that since they couldn't fit Braun into the story properly, they at least made that VHS tape you're looking at right now. So, yeah, no Braun in Chapter 5. And as for Pianosaurus making a comeback, that's a whole different joke. Just look at this response. It's pretty clear. Like the Nightmare Critters, Pianosaurus was never canon. So thinking about his return is just wishful thinking at best. Alright, looks like we've dealt with all the nonsense, so now we can move on to the more interesting possibilities. Y'all remember that mysterious hat they've been teasing for ages, right? By now, it's no secret that all those hints were leading up to one of the best characters in Poppy Playtime history, Doey the Doughman. And honestly, one of the concept designs even came kinda close to his actual look. But aside from all those hats, we once saw a weird image with some kind of silhouette hidden in it. Before the gameplay trailer dropped, we were sure those hats and that clown were pointing to a specific character, but now everything's changed, and this mysterious clown might actually be one of the new monsters. We know for sure it's not Doey, so who the hell is this clown? If you follow fan-made content, you've probably seen a dude named Lulu the Clown, and I gotta admit, he caught my attention. Now, obviously, we're not going to see him exactly as he appears in fan concepts, but something similar could definitely show up in Chapter 5. We all know how much Mob Entertainment loves their Easter eggs and hidden references. That being said, I don't think he's going to follow Doey's story arc. I seriously doubt they'll give us another friendly character who turns on us in the end. But hey, there's always a twist, and I actually have a really interesting theory about that, which I'll get into in just a minute. But before that, let's talk about one of the smiling critters. I came across a theory online about their return, and honestly, it kinda got my attention. I'll say right away, the chances are small, but they're still there. Everyone remembers that critter, Hoppy Hopscotch, right?
Wanna try hopping to the moon with me? On 3 with me. 1, 2, 3! Heh, didn't get very far, did we? Jump! Jump!
And back then, there were already tons of suspicions that Hoppy was still alive, and that her desperate scream wasn't because of the prototype attacking or anything like that, but simply because she jumped way too high. The following distortions also hint at this. Plus, one of the VHS tapes once again teases Hoppy.
Thanks, Doey. Sorry we lost the supplies. It won't happen again.
The important thing is you're both okay. Aside from that bite, that is.
But let's be real, this theory has the right to exist, even though it seems pretty unlikely. What do you guys think about it? And of course, in Chapter 4, something happened that many had already suspected since Chapter 3. Ollie actually turned out to be the prototype. Ollie had been helping us for a long time, and we seriously considered him an ally. But in the final scene of Chapter 4, the moment many had been waiting for finally happened, while others were genuinely shocked by this plot twist.
Shelf ventilation block B6. Is this where you are, Poppy?
What?
Stay where you are.
And listen closely. You're not going to run. You're not going to fight. The charade is over.
Who is this?
An obvious question with an obvious answer.
That good old buddy Ollie? Yeah. Turns out he never actually talked to us. Dude's probably been dead for a while now, and the prototype just straight up jacked his voice. Wild, right? I mean, Ollie always seemed like this chill, helpful guy, but in the end, he kind of betrayed us. Well, sorta. So, if we lost someone like him, wouldn't it make total sense for Chapter 5 to throw in another Ollie-type character? Hopefully this time, not just the prototype in disguise. And that's where the clown comes in. Why not, right? What if he takes Ollie's place? We meet him at the start, he helps us out, seems all friendly, and then, boom, he backstabs us and hands us over to the prototype at the worst possible moment. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Now, the theory that Chapter 5 is going to be the grand finale is gaining more and more traction. And if that's the case, it's pretty much guaranteed we're finally going to face the prototype. Not much to say about him. Everyone's already convinced he's showing up, whether this is the last chapter or not. Huggy, though? That's where things get interesting. We know he's one of the prototype's minions, and it totally looks like he's going to be a villain in Chapter 5. But what if there's another side to this? We all know Kissy, and the fact that she's on our side is as obvious as needing water to survive. And if we go back to Sleep Well, we see shots of Huggy and Kissy together. They're actually really close friends. So some folks think Kissy might be able to change Huggy's mind and turn him into our ally. Personally, I don't buy it. Here's how I think it's gonna go down. Huggy shows up, door behind us opens, we manage to escape, running, and then poof, Huggy's gone. Later, we run into someone who looks like Lulu, we play through the game, Lulu betrays us, we finally meet the prototype. He disappears, then Huggy pops up again, we take him down, and of course, we get one final showdown with the prototype, and there you go. Quick recap of the characters we just talked about. Even though I mentioned how confident I am that Chapter 5 will be the finale, some fans, thanks to a message from Zach, think otherwise and believe we'll get at least 6 chapters of Poppy playtime. I gotta say, I think Zach was just messing around with us. Nothing more. Everything's pointing to Chapter 5 wrapping up the playtime story, and that's why I'm so confident about it. Now, because some folks are holding on to the idea that there will be more than 5 chapters, a few of them brought up an old leak about an amusement park, and theories started flying that maybe this park will be the main setting for Chapter 5. But let me tell you, I'm 1,000,000% sure that the prototype's lab will be the main location, and that final VHS tape only backs me up on that.
Hi, my name is Leif Pierre, and I'm the head of innovation here at Playtime Co. If you're seeing this, you must be very, very lost. Well, rest assured, friend, our state-of-the-art laboratory is just up ahead. Why don't you just go on inside and tap one of our scientists on the shoulder? Tell them you're lost. They'll be glad to help. All right. Let's be honest. You're not supposed to be here. This is the single most high-security, high-clearance section of the whole factory. When someone finds you down here, you will be shot. And before you get any ideas, don't think you can just sneak away either. No, the second you put this tape in, it set off an alarm. So if anyone's home, they know exactly where you are. Pretty nifty, huh? Security is very important to us here. If I were you, I'd start running.
And of course, we can't forget about Poppy, who straight up ditched us at the end of Chapter 4. But honestly, it felt like everything was leading up to that, especially with Doey, who had already gone through something similar. Her return is a given, and I doubt anyone will be surprised. We know Poppy wasn't feeling too great after the Hour of Joy, and that event pretty much pushed her conflict with the prototype to the absolute limit. That's why I'm convinced she's gonna play a major role in taking him down in Chapter 5. And I promised y'all I'd tell you which of the prototype's minions might be making a comeback. Doey the Dough Man is hands down one of the craziest characters in Poppy Playtime history. His whole tragic fate really hit people hard. No lie, watching his downfall was insanely sad. And not only did his whole purpose in life get wrecked in like an hour, but in the end, we straight up finished him off. Or maybe not. In this video, we're gonna break down the chances of Doey actually surviving. Spoiler, they're pretty high, and talk about how his comeback could seriously impact us. In one of the missions, we saw that Doey is terrified of the cold, which totally makes sense considering what he's made of. And it was that very same cold that let us stop him and, well, save our own skin.
You and Poppy! It's all your fault! Want to kill you! Kill everyone who hurts me! Can't trust anyone! The gentle voices lie! You lie! I'm trying to be better, to be who they needed. Not smart enough, not good enough, not...
But right off the bat, something felt kinda off. Like, did we really take down an almost immortal monster that easily? I mean, not only can he squeeze through literally any opening, but he's also crazy strong. You probably figured that out yourself just by watching how effortlessly he tore Pianosaurus into pieces. And let's be real, it'd be way too simple if a big boy like that just died at the hands of the player just cause he got hit with some cold and a press. Sure, those are solid reasons. But even right before his so-called death, we literally saw him still talking, which means he was very much alive. On top of that, we all know that kinda extreme cold ain't gonna last forever. Sooner or later, Doey's gonna thaw out. And since we never actually saw his frozen body shatter into pieces, there's a good chance that once he thaws, he'll just keep going like nothing happened. And that's where things get really interesting. We all remember exactly who Doey blames for what happened to Safe Haven.
You. It all started with you. You and her. It was you who ruined everything! No, that's not true. They jump-started the generator. They destroyed everything! I'll kill you!
But over time, we figured out that all that rage and negativity were really just coming from one test subject, Kevin. Meanwhile, Jack and Matthew still had a pretty positive attitude toward us. It's easy to say that even if Doey did survive, that's only gonna make things worse for us. Our last moments with him were, well, not exactly friendly. But there's still one thing Doey hates even more than us, and he straight up told us about it in the play zone.
This was once a work yard, you know. A dozen of us, maybe two, would be here at any given time. They had us work. Whatever they wanted us to do, we'd do it. And for those of us who couldn't, or wouldn't, at night, when no one important was watching, they'd take them. Take them in here. We only got food for one of you this week. They'd say, which of you will it be? They'd watch up there. It was usually over within minutes. And the guards, they'd be hysterical. Nobody died. No, because then people would know. But the next day and every day after, they would work. Oh yeah, hard as they could. And they'd never cause trouble again.
And besides all those who made him suffer, mainly the scientists and guards, there were even some experiments Doey might hate more than us and Poppy. The events of Hour of Joy messed with every monster, no matter which side they ended up on. Everyone remembers what Poppy said, that the first days after that damn hour were pure hell, and the main reason for that was hunger. Even when we first met Doey, he straight up mentioned it. And once all the meat was gone, every toy had to start fighting to survive, including those in Safe Haven. And from what I gathered from one of the tapes, some of the Safe Haven residents were the ones constantly finding food. That same tape also dropped one very interesting detail.
You're okay. Okay. Look at me. I'm a mess.
Poppy, what's going on?
We were trying to bring supplies back up to the elevator, but we got jumped. Had to turn all the way back around. They took everything we had, right after one of them picked my leg.
How is he, Doc?
Not too bad. He'll live.
See?
Keep it clean. Could get infected otherwise.
So, what do we do now?
The prototype, or at least one of his goons, was constantly hunting down the good monsters, and not only stealing their food, but straight up trying to kill them whenever possible. So of course, Doey hated the one responsible for all of this, the prototype. Now, if Doey did survive the events of Chapter 4, he's got a huge problem ahead of him. He's left with only 3 choices. Keep chasing us down and trying to kill us, except that we're not actually the bad guys and switch to our side, or go full-on loner and turn against everyone. And considering there's like a 95% chance that Chapter 5 will be the final game, the idea of Doey joining us and actually helping us out again seems like the most logical outcome. Now let's take a step back and remember why Doey was so against Poppy's plan to destroy Playtime Factory in the first place.
The toys out there in Safe Haven, they're my family. I understand what Poppy wants, what she believes is right. Destroy the factory, destroy him. But I ask you to consider, if we throw everything away, everyone, just to kill the prototype, how much do we waste? I know the others might believe it's right, that we should bury everything, but let's just think about it.
And as hard as it is to accept, Safe Haven is gone. That means everyone Doey loved and protected is dead, all because of the prototype. And since Safe Haven was the only thing really holding him back, now there's nothing stopping him from wiping out everything that reminds him of those horrific events. Considering just how insanely powerful Doey is, his help in either fighting the prototype or pulling off Poppy's one and only plan would be huge. But Doey himself has pointed out more than once that the plan to blow up the Foundation and eventually the entire Playtime Co. facility is insanely dangerous for everyone. So now, the big question is, how does Doey go from a crazed, murderous maniac hellbent on killing us to a hero we'll never forget? And that's where a certain recorded conversation between Jack's parents and Doey comes into play.
Are you?
Jack? Honey, it's me. It's Mommy.
Mommy?
Yes. Yes! It's Mommy and Daddy. You remember, don't you?
Leave me alone.
Hey, you'll be okay, I promise. Mommy's only here to talk.
No, I don't want to talk. Get out!
Susan, I think we should leave.
Jackie, I'm staying right here. I'm not leaving you. Not ever again. Do you hear me?
The gentle voices lie. I know what they do. They lie, and they poke, and they hurt! Susan, get away from me!
Jack? Mommy won't lie to you, Jackie. Mommy won't hurt you. I'd never hurt you.
Hey! Hey! Open this door! Oh, God. Susan! Please! Open the door! Please!
We all get that Doey is a lost and broken monster, completely unable to trust anyone because each of his personalities is living its own life. And that horrifying moment when he transforms into that salamander-like nightmare, yeah, that perfectly illustrates just how torn apart he really is. Since Doey has literally lost everything that ever mattered to him, I've got a strong feeling that he will be the one to plant the bombs and blow up the foundation while we keep the prototype distracted. And chances are, when Playtime Co. finally goes up in flames, Doey will go down with it, sacrificing himself for us and forever being remembered as a true hero.